Well, howdy. My name's Chris Ritchie. If you've found me, then you've possibly found me by way of Talking Story and the Town Square videos, or you already follow me on Twitter, most likely. Um, this is going to be my first attempt at a long form video where I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about my top 10 for 2024. I don't plan on doing too many of these videos. It's mostly just going to be a every once in a while thing. I'll possibly have some other videos that I'll put up for progress on how things are going for my writing and what have you. But so you're not going to see too many of these. Um, and of course, the howdy is I don't know why I want to start that way. I watched Firelight recently. Over if you're a Patreon member and on Talking Story, then you know what that is. It's a great short film by the Mittens. Highly recommend you check it out. And in reference to that, this top 2024 list is my perfect ratio of beanies and weenies. If you get that reference, it's a great short. You should go check it out. Anyway, I guess on to the topic at hand. And without too many edits, so he says. Um, I guess we'll start out with my 2024 year. I read 50 books, 40 of which I gave 5 stars to, and I'm going to try to be a little more precise on that going forward, uh, as probably not all of them were full 5 star reads. Whenever I looked over my list, there were 17 immediately that jumped out to me as those that have to make the list. And from there, I whittled it down, obviously, the top 10, but I also have 5 honorable mentions, so 2 got cut. But they're all phenomenal stories. I guess we'll just start off with the honorable mentions, and these are in no particular order. They're all phenomenal in their own way. The first one I want to talk about is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. Probably saying his name wrong, it just doesn't roll off the tongue very well. Um, anyway, I jumped into this series in the wrong spot. It was a little bit confusing whenever I looked at the names of the other groups that these books were in. So this is the first book in the First Law world, but not the First Law series. So that threw me off. Anyway, phenomenal characters. Um, his view on Grimdark is, I think, very unique from what I can tell. Anyways, I haven't done a ton of Grimdark yet. Although, do I have a Grimdark further up on this list? Um, but anyway, the amount that he brings in humor to everything, and just just the characters, the dynamics between the characters and everything is so good. I can't wait to get to the main series. The next one up is Stone and Sky by Z.S. Diamante. This is a really classic um, fantasy feel to it, and it's just the first book. I'm currently listening to the second book right now, but so it'll probably be higher up on the list as a series as a whole, like later this year, because I really love the series. He does such a great job of creating this world with various factions, and he brings in his experience from the Air Force into it when he talks about these Griffin pilots and Wyvern and then the Pegasus as well, and just using that terminology. I love being able to meld in those real world experiences and just kind of have that feel of authenticity to it. So I think he was a perfect guy to write something with that level of fantasy Air Forces, basically. Um, you should definitely check it out. It's a family story. You can read it to your kids, no problem. Um, and I can't wait to see what I feel like the end of the trilogy. Next up on the list is The Bloodstones by Tori Tekken. And man, this is another one where it's the first in the series. She does such a great job of writing these characters. Um, and just like what the kids go through and their development. And it's not really not towards the end until you kind of catch on to certain things, and it really makes me hopeful for what going forward, how that's going to translate on. So I can't wait to finish the series whenever she gets the next one out. But I definitely recommend hopping into that and reading it as well. Um, Next one up, which is probably the most controversial, as having an honorable mention, is The Lord of the Rings. Read all 3 books last year for the first time ever. Um, and I'm the kind of guy who watches those movies every year, so I love them. It's my one of my favorite fantasies. But and maybe I'm tainted a bit by consuming it so much, and maybe comparing to the movie. But there are certain points, obviously, when you're reading through it, the movie scenes playing through your head, just like, oh man, I got to stop and I've got to just play that scene out in my head or go watch the clip of it real quick because it's such an awesome story, and just the way just the adaptation of it was just phenomenal. Especially reading it, and watching it again after I got reading it, really seeing the level to which they did such a great adaptation of it. Um, Especially the extended cuts, of course, that's the only way to watch it. Um, but ultimately, it didn't have the emotional impacts that a lot of these books that are higher up on the list had. They didn't have those key moments. They have a lot of awesome fantasy and story and world building, but the emotional buildup wasn't to the level of being a top tier book for me. And then the final honorable mention is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Um, First time reading that as well. Wasn't exactly sure what to go, what was going to be going into it. But man, the story, it was so good. Um, Following along a guy that obviously has a crime, he's kind of trying to avoid the punishment, and just the interactions and the layering of all those interactions, and the world built up around this one thing is just so in depth. It's such a great dive into the characters. I would definitely recommend that for anybody who's a character first reader. Um, you'll absolutely love that, I think. And that's the end of the honorable mentions. So let's hop up to top 10. Number 10, and I'm cheating a little bit because I'm grouping these in the series. So if I've read, so many books from the series, then it'll be on here. So for the number 10, the Bobbyverse books 1 through 5. Actually, I'm sorry, 1 through 4. What I read last year. I was going to do 5, but put it off to do other stuff. So 1 through 4. Um, I, if you're not familiar with that, the basically guy dies in the past. His brain is put into a machine as an AI far in the future, and they're using those AI machines to go and recolonize the galaxy because there's stuff going on with Earth. Or at least there's starting to go stuff going on with Earth and trying to colonize a bit. And of course, other nations and other factions have their own AIs as well. I love um, the extrapolation of history. That's a big thing for me, and just the inclusion of so many pop culture references that I think any nerd would really appreciate how well it plays out. And then just the even though these are AI, um, or he is an AI, he makes copies of himself as well. There is a difference between all of them, and they over time they still are human, so to speak. They still evolve. They still think. They feel. And just to see that evolution of technology and his idea on what that means is really interesting to me. I can't wait to see this how the series goes and finishes up. And these are all shorter books, so they're easy to pop in between things as well. Um, but I just really love the I think probably the extrapolation of history is probably the biggest driving force for me to put it into a top 10 for the year. And above that, number 9 is Hills of Heather and Bone by K.E. Andrews. This is my first um, romantasy, and I kind of dove into this one first because there's not no spice in it, and I don't really care for that. So I thought it'd ease me into the genre a bit. And it's centered around a married couple, really wholesome, committed relationship, which I think we should see more of in fantasy worlds and literature in general. But you don't, at least I'm not aware of that being a trope that's common in romantasy. Um, but I love it. And these characters are born with magic in their blood, basically, in this world. And the wife, who's the POV of the book, her blood is the magic that's in her blood has basically become illegal, and so she's being hunted. And that's so they're on the run for a lot of the book, and trying to deal with a lot of um, marriage issues and trauma and things like that. And the husband is so supportive and loving, and there for his wife, and it's a great dynamic. I love the magic that was in it, and the conclusion of the story, and the adventure they went on to see those other settlements, things like that. She did a phenomenal job definitely one of my new favorite authors that I found last year. Um, I did read uh, what was the name of the book? A Yeehaw Dragon Story, Wild Skies. I did read that as well last year, at the end of last year, and I got another book on hers about the Smiling Assassin, I think. But I'll read next year as well. But she's a fantastic author. Check her out. Next up on the list is Vermilion Flames by Adam Fernandez. And the thing that pointed out, or the thing that stood out to me on this one in particular, was the audiobook. Phenomenal job. Absolutely love the narrator on this one. He really nailed it, knocked it out of the park. Um, all sorts of little, not just the character voices were done really well and the emotion he carried through, but there's little sound effects and things like that that he brought to it that really make it stand out and really give you that immersive feeling. So if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely check out the audiobook. But it's post Earth world where they've humanity's colonized the rest of the planets, and we're hopping back and forth between Pluto and Mars at this point in time. And it's interesting to see the different kind of cultures and political systems, things like that he's come up with, and then the plot that's he's weaving throughout all of those world building dynamics. It's really interesting to me. Second book is currently out. The audio book, I believe, is at the end of this month. So end of January, the second audio book will really be released. Definitely picking that up day one and gonna listen to that right away. Can't wait for it. The next up is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I got into that series. I want to get back into it next year, continue on with it. Obviously, it's a number 7 on the list, so I want to read it. Um, the it also feels like an extrapolation of the future and things like that in history, and the realization of the different classes and who does what and what the reality of it is, um, and then just the carrying out of that and the guy main character um, going into that world to basically be part of this plot to overthrow the whole system. Um, I felt it was so well done, and very believable, and just the characters were just raw. Um, man, I can't think of. I feel like I'm repeating myself a bunch here, but I just love the characters. I'm a character first kind of guy for the most part. So even though that was really good, and I'm sure a lot of people have that like in their top list of all time, I have it number 7 on a year list. So next up, number 6 is The Black Crown by Jonathan Douglas. This is another one of those kind of more classic fantasy series feels. Um, Man, the journey that Rags goes on in the story, just right off the bat, what kicks him off into his adventure, and then his ultimate arc into the the being with the orcs in general and things like that, and the characters he meets along the way, and just like the depth of those characters as well, are so well done. I mean, that was an easy 5 star. That as soon as I got done reading it, um, I'm just well done. Can't wait to see the next one on that one. Up from that, number 5 is Whispers of a Worldbreaker by Corey Ratliff. Man, what to say about this one? The It's kind of a classic Dragon Rider story in a sense, but then it kind of takes off in a direction that I wasn't expecting towards the end. Definitely one of the best plot twists, lore drops I've read in a long time. Um, blew my mind to see that. Um, and the way he spreads the lore out for this world that he's made throughout it is not. I don't. There's not really any lore dumps. It's explained in what I feel are like natural ways, and then the various characters that he has really really nailed the whole vibe that he was going for on it. Just kind of bleak and desolate in a lot of places, but also areas of hope and growth and just change, and then the magic that he brings in to change characters from one thing to another and get their potential and really start a lot of them on an arc that I can see just being massive in the future. So I can't wait to finish off that series as well. See where he takes everything and learn more about the world that he's developed. And then number four up from that is the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. That's the first three books in the realm of the Elderlings. Um, man, the uh, there's so many people that are going to articulate this better than I can. So I honestly don't know why I'm making this sometimes, but the the journey of Fitz in this trilogy is so good, so heartbreaking. But there's so many moments that you're hopeful about how they're going to go, and then it just gets dashed against the rocks. um, man, the whole journey it was just fantastic. The world that was built and this magic system that she developed, um, and just the ebbs and flow of political power and the court issues going on. If you're interested in court intrigue and things like that, it weaves it in very well to this whole world. Um, Such a phenomenal book. I'm going to read the Life Ship Traders next this next year this year. Um, Not exactly sure when, but that'll get done this year because I want to continue doing a section of the Roman things every year until they're done. Man, next up on the list is Sun Eater books, 1 through 4 by Christopher Rocchio. Once again, the extrapolation of history over thousands of years, myths turning to legends and legends becoming history, um, the exploration of language, um, man, and just the growth and development of Marlowe. Man, if book one doesn't hook you, I don't know what will. And it's probably I don't know. I want to get done with the series before I like rank the series in and of itself. But the first book is really good, but it's not the best of those. I think number four so far is my favorite. Um, the exploration of the Cielson and the really getting into a lot of what um, the fantastical powers of uh, of Marlowe are. And man, so good. And I think I've read two of the novellas as well in that book, those 1 through 4. Um, so I can't wait to see where that goes up. I'm hopefully going to finish that series this year. I'll start book 5 next month, and book 7's coming out later this year. I'll high hop on that right away. And then the next up from that is the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. Um, they like this one made it there because of the emotional impact. Um, Man, the magic system is awesome. The 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 mafia esque, the yakuza style kind of family dynamics and the world going on is very interesting to really get into the heads of people who are essentially criminals, but they're also kind of the good guys in a way. So to see that dynamic, and understanding the how how involved they are with the world and how they try to be better than just criminals, but also at the same time they still do a lot of criminal stuff, um, and how that's put up within the world. It's very interesting, but the journeys of the characters. Oh man, I love Shay. She was my favorite character in that series. If you know, you know. Um, Hilo was great too, but man, Shay, the stuff she went through, my heart broke for her. It was mm, man, that was a lot. And then hopefully not taking too much longer on this, but let's go and wrap up with number one on the list, which I've said before on things. But my number one book and probably one of my all-time top books now is Dandelion Wine by Ray Bradbury. That was off a suggestion from Andrew Wizardly Reads to read that one. It's a series of connected short stories with the backdrop being the coming of age story for two young brothers. Um, the imagination of children to create these fantastical elements in an ordinary world um, just really brings you back to a childhood mentality that's full of imagination and wonder, and it's so well written. Um, I mean, I this is probably one of the few books where as soon as I got done reading it, I had to stop and just sit in awe of what I just got done reading. Truly a phenomenal book. 100% should read for any guy and any parent of a young boy as well, so you can kind of get in that headspace of imagination and wonder, and you can just better grasp what's going on in your kids' heads, because it's been a long time since we've all been that young and had that level of um, wonderment. I don't know, better word for it, going on in our heads. So yeah, that's it. That's my top 10 with 5 honorable mentions for the year. Man, 2025 is going to be a crazy year for reading too. There's so many books that I want to get to. I mean, 4 out of my top 10 here were indie reads. I'm trying to read an indie every month. I read 10 last year, and 6 of them total made it on this list. 2 were in the honorable mentions. Um, I can't wait for next year and getting more into indies. Hopefully, I'll do at least one a month, if not more. Um, yeah, so feel free to check back every once in a while, see what I got going on. You can follow me at Twitter at author C Ritchie. And you can also check out my book here, Small Town Problems. Um, it's a sci-fi novella. I can we got other videos on that, and I can talk about it elsewhere, but don't want to take up too much time on this. There's some links down in the description for my link tree as well as my storefront for that. Um, and I'll be looking forward to your comments. If you leave any, we can hit me up down there or hit me up on Twitter. We can have a conversation about any of these books or anything else. Love talking about basically anything. So I'll catch you all later.